In this tutorial series, I will go over how you can create stunning forest biome landscapes in a Gaea. We will go over two different landscape texturing options. We'll show you importing process and how to quickly set up a simple landscape material. PCG part is split in two videos depending if you just want to set up simple PCG graph to spawn your biomes, or you want to use new PCG biome core plugin that comes with Unreal Engine 5.4. Hi, my name is Mars Freemanis and let's jump into it. So the cool thing about generating landscapes using Gaea is you can set up different templates for different kind of biomes, and then you can just change the seed numbers to get different kind of landscapes. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with ridge. So here is the ridge, and we get this. I can actually turn off this to the window for now, and actually this looks pretty good. I actually like this is something I want for my landscape. I want this part to be more flat, and then I want some kind of like a mountain here, so we can like put, for example, camera here and get this kind of look. So just play here with the seed, but we can just play with the seed and get different kind of looks. So I'm just gonna go back with whatever was this. I think this one looks good. And now, just to get out a bit more the detail, we're gonna use something called range. Let's get range. So we're just gonna change this called width base, and now we can see we're getting now more this kind of like detail. Again, let's play with the seed number. I'm just gonna deal something that I found. This looks pretty good. And now, just to elevate a bit everything, we're just gonna use a shaper, and I'm just gonna use the shaper to 20%. Okay, so now it lifted everything a bit up. And now we just can use combine, so we can combine these two things. And here we go. So we're gonna use the standard blend with ratio 50-50, so you have 50 for this, 50 for this. And I think this looks pretty good. And again, you can just go back and play with the seed number and change, for example, to something like this. I took from already one of the templates that I have made. So something like this. So next thing we're gonna need to do is to break down a bit to start, so it start to look like a mountain. So we're gonna use erosion. Let's add erosion to it. So we're gonna set up duration to 45%. So you're gonna need to apply every time. For erosion, you need to click apply each time you want to make some kind of changes. So I'm gonna set this random sediments to 100% and sediment removal to 45%. Okay, this is good. So now we can see we are starting to get some flat areas and more mountain areas. Now we're gonna area effect. We're gonna select to perceived amount, by stop slope, and apply changes. So now we start to get some more details, and this is actually going to be our base for everything. Looks very good. And again, if you want to change something, you could just play with seeds for any of these parameters and you're going to get a new look. So this could also be something that you are basically done. Just 4 nodes and your mountain thing is already done, and you can just really go to the next thing. But what I want to add is actually some water, just to break out the landscape, make it more interesting. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a river. So we can see it's very easy. So now we have river. Since we're gonna have some camera here and everything's gonna be very far away, and so the things don't get lost just in trees, because if it's gonna be very, very small, let's say river, then trees gonna cover and camera not gonna see river at all. So we can just gonna crank up all this to the maximum. I'm gonna set this to the 40%. And I'm just gonna again take one of the seed numbers that I have. So something like this. So it could be actually very cool for some close-up shots, or in case if you want to create environment for just exploring. Let's say your character walks around. I think this river would work pretty well. But for cinematics, I kind of feel like we want these rivers to be wider, because I know that if you have seen a lot of times people choose, in this kind of landscapes, people usually choose very wide rivers so they really stand out between all the trees and the mountains and stuff like that. Because right now here, again, if we're gonna look, let's say like this, if we're gonna have trees all over here, we're not gonna see rivers much. So what we can do is we actually can create something called lakes from the rivers. So if we normally would have just lakes, so from the rivers, they're just gonna make it more wider. Now we can see it covers whole landscape. So what we can do, we're just gonna change this number to something like 1 and apply changes. And now we can see in the places where we had the rivers before, now they're formatting like small lakes. So now we have more water area, and if you're gonna have a camera here, then we can see it's just we're gonna have this, for example, like if you're gonna put that camera here, we can have this nice big water area, and it's really gonna show up in the camera. After that, we're gonna add something called arboreal. This is what actually gonna give us information about where the tree is gonna go. And so we're gonna get to, we're gonna leave the clutters healthy. We can change the type from the small. It's again, I just like when it's large. So we're gonna have a bit bigger PCG area, because we are actually not focusing in this that much on the trees, because we're not gonna use these trees in our Unreal Engine render. It's just I'm more trying to expand the high map areas, so we have more information for our PCG grabs. So we're gonna just change this to the wild. So again, we're gonna have more area covered. So we're gonna change the altitude to 42%, because we don't want these trees to cover the peaks of the mountains. We want them to be empty. Altitude fell off. I think I can leave that. So we're gonna set the slope max to like 50%. So basically the maximum slope the tree is gonna grow is a 50%. Slope fell off. We're gonna change this to like 45%. And that's about it. And then we can just set up some, again, like, and play with the seed. And I think this looks pretty good. Again, you could stop here, but there's actually 2 more things we could add. So usually in this kind of mountains, we would have a snow. And what we're gonna do is, so we're gonna add a snowfall. Let's add a snowfall node. We're gonna put it here. And I'm gonna change this to 100. Melt at 50. And this at the 10% snow line. We can see that there's no really much of information in the snow. I think, like, actually all the snow currently is gone. But what we want to do is, to make it look more natural, let's add a sunlight. So I can add something sunlight. And you're gonna see what it does in a second. I'm gonna put from the lake, and then this one I'm gonna put in this pen. So the third one from the top. See, we can see the snow is coming back again. And what we're gonna do, I'm gonna change this to 170. This is just basically degree, so we can see the sun is coming from this side and there's a shadow. And now we can see that we have this more interesting thing where the snow goes, and on the top and here is more melted. Here's again where in the shadows, it's more snow than where the sun is coming from. It's more melted. And again, you can just really play with this direction. However, if you know that, for example, like you're planning the camera here, you can really adjust it depending like however you want. So the last cool thing we're gonna add is we can see that here where we have the waters, and especially this is gonna be important if you want to create some kind of walking environment. Probably if it's just cinematic shots, we're not gonna see that much. Is we can see that the trees currently are growing basically right here where the shore is, and it looks natural. So we need to kind of like blend it between the area where the trees are and the water. And how we can do this is we're gonna add something like FX, and we're gonna pull this FX from the second. node, and I'm gonna put it as a level and log, so we can get out the information from we can basically get the level, the height, information from the lakes. So you can see basically it's like a map. And then we're gonna add something called multi combine. And so I'm just gonna put this in the first pin. Then this lake pin, we're gonna put this the third one. And in the second pin, we're gonna add another FX node right here. And I'm just gonna put it here. And for this FX node, I'm gonna set to shaper. We're gonna put shaper at 100%. And to get that, like, so the edges are not that hard, because again, we want to make some nice transition, we're gonna add a blur. And I'm gonna set the blur to maybe like 3%. See, and now here basically you're gonna spawn the trees in this black area. And then there's gonna be nice transition to the water area. So we're gonna be able to use this map to make a separation. So adding, like, let's say different material between the shore and the water and the tree area. And then we're just gonna take this pin. I'm just gonna mobile this. And we're gonna put it here. Nothing happened because we need to change the blend mode. We're just gonna change to the max, and we're gonna put this to 100%. And now, here we go. Now we can see, now we have the shore areas all around here. So here we are actually done with our landscape, and we can just export it, or in case if you, so it really depends how you want to texture your landscape. For example, like if you want to make some kind of walking environment where you're going to be walking around with your character, then probably you want to use some kind of Unreal Engine materials and textures to texture your landscape, and like in case if you want to change things around. But if you know this is going to be static and you're not going to really make changes, then you can also actually texture your landscape in a Gaea, and we can use this texture in case if you are choosing to use a new Unreal Engine PCG plugin. This texture not going to really work well if we're going to use the PCG filter option using just a regular graph, but with the plugin, it's going to work actually very good. So if you want to texture in a Gaea, then you can follow along, or you can just use the timestamp and already go to the export settings. So for this, we need to create something. We're going to try quickly create something called portals. So take this pin from the erosion and let's click it, make a portal. And another portal we're going to make is from this bottom node of the snowfall. Let's again click make a portal. You can actually make another graph. We can actually rename this to landscape, and we can make another one. We're going to call this texture. So yeah, let's do that for just to keep it clean. So in texture, we're just gonna create a new graph. We can call it texture. We're gonna pull it out, check portals, and select erosion. And now what you're gonna do is we're gonna use something called set map. It's called saturation map, I believe, probably. And this is where we're gonna start to give the look for our map. So the first thing, we're actually gonna combine. We're gonna do two of them. Let's set up this way so we can see what colors are changing, and we can actually select combine. Let's use combine 1, combine 2. We can set up actually first combine so we can see actually what colors are we changing. For combine, we're gonna set up the blend. We're gonna set up to 100% blend ratio. Okay. So we have these two saturation maps, and I'm really just using it so it doesn't look all uniform in the same color. And for the first one, I'm gonna set up a color something like 0176. So this is gonna be the first color I'm gonna be using, and I'm just gonna change this to make it more blue. We're gonna just change it to -126, And that's it. So now we can see that most of the landscape is colored in this dark gray bluish color, and then these high areas are where we're getting this color from. And we're gonna save this one to the same one, 1076, and I'm just gonna change this to something like 19, so it moves, the bias moves a bit more. And if you go to combine, then here we go. It combines very nice, and we are getting nice different kind of textures on the sides and on the flat area. So again, you can play with different kind of numbers. We're gonna need to add the snow, because right now we can see we're missing the snow. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna add FX node. And for this, again, we're gonna go portals, and we're gonna use that our snowfall. We're gonna add level log equalizer. We're gonna add displace. We're gonna change this to 47, 13. Really, these numbers you can just put in from whatever I put, because I have like just a template. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna need to start a mask out. So we're gonna put in this combine. Currently we can see nothing much is happening. We're gonna need to add saturation map for this, because this is like just a mask, so we can mask it out. We're gonna add saturation mask. We're gonna go to legacy. We're gonna go to zeros, so you can get white color. You can again play with different kind of colors and experiment, but just I'm gonna leave this. And then we're just gonna do combine. We can do combine. We're gonna add this here. Then we're gonna add this saturation map as the second one. And then this, again, we're gonna add as a mask. And then for the combine, we're just gonna do blend, 100%. And bam. Now we can get back also the snow. So, and the last thing is we're gonna add something called vegetation. We're gonna put this here. As the second output, we're gonna use our erosion. And then for this one, we're gonna use something 005. We're gonna use density 19. We're going to use influence. So this is the influence level, how much we can see. Let's crank it up to something very big, like 90. And I can change this to, let's say, something like 28. And here we could technically also add the water and mask that and add some water information, but I'm not gonna do it because I'm probably gonna use just the water plane anyways, so we're not gonna see really this through anyways. But in the same way, you could add also the same as we did with first snow. We can start to mask out also the water area in case you want to mask out, but I think this is gonna be good enough for this. So the last thing, basically, what we need to do is we really need to set up our export settings. So what we're going to do is, so there is this erosion. We're going to set this to make a right click on the erosion and choose mark for export. Lakes, we also going to set up mark for export. Arboreal, click. Again, I'm going to click this one, mark for export. Snowfall also going to be marked for export. This multi-combine, in case if you want to mask out the shore area and give it a different color, we're going to mark for export too. And in the textures, we're going to use this, and we're just going to mark for export. And now here, we're just going to change these to PNG for all of them. So it's here in the build. We're just gonna set up to PNG for everything, and PNG and PNG. Here we're gonna leave to the normal build. Since we are using free version, only big limitation for us is the texture, so we're just gonna set to 1K. So that's the maximum we can export in a free version. So in case if you have a paid one, you can export it as a 4K, 8K. Then we're just gonna change this to the normalized. So before we hit export, actually one more thing that I forgot is we also need a normal map for our texture in case if you're using this. So it's very easy to do. We're just gonna select the normal map. And here for the input, we're just gonna use portal erosion. And we're just gonna mark for export. And we can start build. So once we exported our textures in heightmaps, it's time to set up the landscape in Unreal Engine. I'm gonna be using Unreal Engine 5.4 for this. So we're gonna go to File, New Level, and we're just gonna set up the completely new empty level. I'm gonna save it. We're gonna create new map, maps, and we're gonna set up. I'm just gonna call my landscape. Then I'm gonna go to Windows, and I'm gonna go Environment Light Mixer, and I'm just gonna add all the lights here in the scene and file save. So now, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to landscape. We're gonna do import from file. So, and here, what we're gonna import is, where's erosion? So we're gonna import this erosion map. So that's gonna be our base for our height map. So this erosion map, we're gonna open it up. And now if you go back, so we can see this scale looks off for our 1K. So we can see that our resolution is 1K. So here we don't need to change much except this one. And the formula for this is, so we're gonna go, there's two important numbers that we're gonna need to adjust our scale. So if we bring back our Gaea project and open this up, so we're gonna need to get our resolution number. So in our case, it's gonna be 1009. But if you have 2K, 4K, 8K, doesn't matter. So you're gonna take that number. So in our case, we have 1K texture, and we need to get this number. Usually by default, it's 5000. So leave it as it is. In case if for some reason you have changed this, then take that number. But default is 5000, and we're gonna use that. So the formula gonna be, we're gonna need to convert this 5000 that we had in Gaea to kilometers. So times 100 and divide by resolution. So whatever resolution you have, 8K, 4K, 10K, 100K, doesn't matter. So that's what you're gonna divide it. And bam. Now we have successfully converted the Gaea landscape to Unreal Engine landscape with correct sizes. And now we can just press import. And bam. So if I just gonna go back, I'm just gonna disable the fog for now so we can see. Look at that. We can just seriously put the camera here, and actually landscape looks very, very nice. So our landscape is ready, and now I'm just gonna show you two different ways actually how you can color your landscape. So in case if you want to use the Gaea texture that we created, what we can do is we can select normal map and vegetation map, and we can import them both in Unreal Engine. We're gonna make a new material. I'm gonna call it this one landscape texture, since we're using a texture. Open it up and import both textures in. And we can actually select the landscape, and we can assign this landscape material so we can see what's happening. So let's move here. And then we can just select this as our base color. And this is our normal. And if we save, we can see the tiling is off. We get these small ugly tiles. And how we can fix it is actually very easy. We're gonna create a landscape layer coordinates. We're just gonna connect this to the UE. And here, I'm gonna move it a bit more so we can see better. Here is a mapping scale. And all you have to do is just enter your landscape scale. So in our case, it was 1009. So again, if you have 4K, 8K, 10K, whatever, you're just gonna enter that amount, like number here. We're just gonna save it, and bam. Since it's a 1K texture, obviously it's gonna be very, very low resolution, and if we come very close, it doesn't look nice at all. But if you're planning to add something here, as a base and just looking like this, actually at the far distance, that 1K texture doesn't change a lot. It's not gonna work for your walking environments, but for that you're gonna need to get some paid version. So if you're gonna export actually the same scene in 8K, it's gonna look way more better and it's actually gonna be usable. But for far shots work, but for close shots, if you wanna walk, then we can go to the second approach. What we can do is you're gonna need to either create a material. So I'm gonna quickly show you how you can make one, or we can use one of the auto materials. Now this is auto material that we can actually use because Brushify uses landscape material layer system and it's free, so it works pretty well. So let's say if we want to create our own material, so we can like put out different kind of biomes out, what we're gonna need to do is get some textures. And one of the places we could do it is Quixel Bridge. Let's go Quixel Bridge and find... So I have already downloaded some of the textures, but so basically what we're gonna need is a snow. We would need to get some base. So let's say we can get some rock cliff. Then you're gonna need to have some grass. I'm gonna have a wild grass. I will get a gravel ground for the base of our rivers, and then for the shore, I'm just gonna get some rocky sand. So currently we need just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 textures. So we're gonna need the snow, rock, so it's basically gonna be the base of everything. Then we're gonna have wild grass. This is where actually our tree is gonna grow and all that. Then we need a gravel and rocky sand. So I'm just gonna add this. They're medium quality. I think it's like 2K. For the tutorial, it's just gonna work fine. And we're just gonna create a new material. So I'm gonna call this Landscape Master. So first thing we're gonna do is select this one, and we're gonna choose Use Material Attribute. So after that, we're gonna pull this out. We're gonna search for Landscape Layer Blend. We're gonna get this. And then we're gonna input, and I usually kind of like to input the order based on how I'm gonna layer and gonna import my layers. So first we're gonna add our rock, or we can actually call it a base layer, but I'm gonna call it like rock. So we can have our rock layer. After that, I'm probably gonna import our grass. Then I think I can import snow. Then I'm gonna import our shore. And then I'm gonna import our river. And the reason is I'm just like to name it, and the shore is first because the river, because these two materials overlap. So the shore is just a bigger version of the river materials, if you remember. So I'm gonna want to import shore first and then river. Here currently doesn't really make a difference if even you make a mistake in order. I just like to kind of keep consistency everywhere. So we're gonna just save this, and now all we need to do is start to import these textures. So let's start with our rock. Let's import here. And now only thing we need to do is pull this out, and we're going to be make material attributes. And we are getting back that material attributes that we know. And here, so we just going to put this as a base color. This is going to be ambient occlusion. This is going to be roughness. And this is normal. So this is one, and now we're just going to repeat quickly the same steps for others. So I'm just going to put this as grass. So now our material is ready. We can just really comment it out. So these first ones. So let's recap. This is a rock. So this is kind of going to be our base rock layer. Then we can set up this to be our grass. Then I believe we have snow. Let's move this here. Then I think this is the shore. Let's put it here. And then the last one is obviously a river or lake, or you can name it as whatever you use. So we have these all 5 materials, 5 textures. So we can select our landscape and we can apply it. So currently we can see it's all black. We can go to the landscape, paint, and what we're gonna do is we're just gonna create here in the paint, we're gonna create the layers. So create a layer, click this one, and we're gonna set it weight blended layer normal. And I'm just gonna save it in default locations for now. And we can see that whole landscape is covered now in rock because we haven't specified the layers. We can say we have a tiling problem. So what we can do is to fix it, we can actually add coordinates, texture coordinate. And we can input this in UVs. And we can experiment with number. I know they're usually tiling like 101. I think something like this usually looks good. Let's check. Yeah, this kind of looks good. You can tile it bigger or smaller if you want, but I think this looks pretty okay for the tiling. Again, you can play with that number. And then we can just grab this texture coordinate and we can just apply everywhere. How we can import the text now information so it colors it should is, so let's go to the rock and we're going to click this import export to file. Let's click on this one, and now in import, don't do anything here. There's layers. So once we open up this one up, now we can start to import our layers. So for the rock, we don't need anything since that's already going to be our base layer. We're going to start with the grass. Let's enable grass, and then let's click this one. And then in our export folder, we're going to use the color one. We can use arboreal color guide. Open it up and click import. We can import it to refreshes, and now we can see the landscape has got the grass color. It automatically has colored. Now after that, we're going to go for the snow. I'm going to use snowfall snow mask. Open it up. Now I'm going to import the snow information. Then after that, I'm going to import a shore, which is basically was our multi-combine. So we can import that one. And lastly, we can import our river. So where's lakes? We can import that one and import. And now we can kind of see probably we need to rescale this a bit. We can open up again our landscape material and put it maybe like some 0.5. Yeah, let's put something like 0.05. Yeah, this scale good. And again, you can play it. And here we go. So we have our rocks. We have our grass. We have our snow here. We have our shore information. And we have also our, basically where the river was before. So we have colored our landscape. And again, the same approach you can use for, let's say, brushify auto material. The same way you can just import. It's just the import order, don't import them right away all the same time, because then they're gonna overlap incorrectly probably. Most of the time, like what I usually do is just import them one by one, and like how I want them to stock the layer information, how I want them to import. Because for example, like if you're gonna import river before shore, the shore are gonna override your river, and you're not gonna have river material. So start with the biggest ones and then go in the smaller detail in the chunks. You can actually do the same thing with the snow and grass, because I think some of the snow covers some of the grass. So you can always, let's say, go back. If you feel like there's too much snow and not enough grass, then what we can do is actually select grass, import. We could find, where's the grass? Arboreal grass, and let's import again. And now we have actually, we can see it covers more, and actually we are getting inshore. So in this case, apparently we needed to import the grass, a last one, because now we can see actually on the shore we are also getting some grass information. It actually covers more snow. So I hope that is clear. The import is really kind of from the biggest chunks to the smallest details, how you want. And it's always, you can just experiment and re-import. So now we're just gonna go to the PCG, and as I said, there are two ways. There's gonna be two different tutorials. We're gonna use, so you can use, let's say, just to set up the simple PCG graph where we are filtering out the data that comes from landscapes. That's one. And we also can use the new plugin that comes with Unreal Engine 5.4 that uses actually different approach, and we have actually more flexibility with how we can texture. As you can see now, we have option to use Gaea materials. With that filter, we can't do that because it really are based on the landscape layers. But in the second approach, we really can just use any landscape coloring. But here you need to be really careful. So difference between these two is, in the first approach where we're gonna use a landscape data, is every time if you're gonna take, let's say, a landscape brush, right? So we go to paint, we select this one, right? And if we like paint here, we're changing like, hey, I don't want to hear snow part, I want more grass. Then PCG gonna immediately, your PCG gonna adjust it accordingly, because again, there's gonna be changes in landscape. But in case if you're using the plugin, then we're gonna need to use some kind of like volumes or splines to mask out and changes information if we are repainting something. So that's something to be aware, and I'm gonna go in this more into the PCG tutorials itself. I hope this tutorial helped with your project. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye.